maybe let's get started. So yes, as I said, I'm Kate Orchard. I'm Head of Community Engagement at the British Science Association. This is a new programme that we're running that we're going to tell you all about, and we're really excited to be working with both the University of Reading and RVA and Slough Council for Voluntary Services as well, so Asma and Rachel. So yes, I'll just go round. So Sally, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. It's really good to see you all tonight. I'm Sally Lloyd-Evans. I'm a lecturer in geography. I'm at the University of Reading, and I'm also the university's Community Research Fellow. And that means that I actually have responsibility for running these types of projects at the university. So it's really good to meet you all.
And Rachel, would you like to say hello?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Rachel Spencer. I'm the Chief Officer of Reading Voluntary Action, and we're a partner in the project, and we'll be supporting the community researchers in their endeavours with and connecting with the communities. So welcome everybody.
And Asma?
Hello everyone, I recognise some of you, so hi to those that I recognise. I'm Asma Aziz, Head of Capacity Building and Fundraising for Slough Council for Voluntary Service. We are also a partner with British Science Association in this community research project, which we're very much looking forward to. And yes, I hope that if you have any questions throughout this session, you can aim that at us. Thank you.
And lastly, Alice, I think, yes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Alice. I'm at the University of Reading. I'm a research assistant. I work in a team together with Sally Lloyd on community research.
Great, thank you. So without further ado, I'm going to share some slides. Just bear with me, and if people can. Hopefully that is full screen. Can everybody see those? I can't see everyone, but if you can give me a nod, brilliant.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry. Hold on, why did that do that?
It was looking good.
Yes, spoke too soon. Sorry about that, hold on. There we go. Right. Great, so I think I've explained everything to everybody. So yes, we're here to talk about the community-led research pilot, and this is to share information about the community researcher roles. And just to start off, I was going to tell you a little bit about us, the British Science Association, who we are. So we work to reach people who are underrepresented or underserved by science. And community engagement is really key to our work. We've got a network of about 890 grassroots community organisations, and we offer a mix of both. Well, we work to reach people who wouldn't normally take part in science and research, and that's partly one of the rationales behind this project. And you can read more about our work in some of these links. So we run a British Science Week community grant scheme, we have a community leaders programme and a buddy programme. So we'll share this presentation later on, and you can follow up and read all about those. And as well as these small grants, we also offer grants and funded projects to help communities connect with research that is linked to science. And two of those that we're running at the moment alongside this new project is the Highlands and Islands Climate Change Community Grant Scheme, and also the Ideas Fund, which is all focused on health and wellbeing. And, you know, we're really excited now to be starting this new pilot in Reading and Slough. So one of the questions that may well come up about this is, what is community research? And Sally is going to speak a little bit about that. Thanks, Sally.
Thanks very much, Kate. So as I said before, everyone, my name's Sally. I've worked in community research for many years, around 20 years now, and it's my job to support local organisations, community researcher teams to do research on things that matter to them. And what is community research, and why is it sort of important to me, really? Well, we all know that communities have a lot of knowledge, right? They have their own lived experiences and learning. Sometimes some of that voice gets missed out in traditional research, particularly in some of the work done by universities. And so for us, this approach, it really empowers communities to use their own knowledge, their own learning, identify an issue, a question that they want answered, and to actually design and carry out the research themselves. It also helps communities often understand issues that they want answers to. And essentially, it puts them in the driving seat from the very early stages of thinking what matters to us, what do we want to find out about, all the way through to maybe even developing outcomes that have an impact on society. And really important to this, I think, is that it challenges universities that are often seen as the experts in doing this type of research, but actually this approach challenges the sort of power between experts, people with lots of qualifications, and actually really valuing the work and the knowledge that communities have. And finally, as an approach, I think it's really important for us to all work together. So the approach is very much about everybody coming together to collaborate. Everybody's knowledge is important. We work in an inclusive way where everybody's voice and everybody's participation is really valued. So what this means for this project really is that you don't need lots of qualifications in research. You don't need previous research experience. What we're looking for is people that have experience of connecting with communities, of understanding them, of listening to them, of working with them, facilitating events. And we will support you with all the training that you actually need. Thanks, Kate.
Great. Thank you.
So just to give you a little bit more background about some of the work that we've been doing at Reading. As I say, we've got a team now. We've been doing this for a number of years. I know some of you in the chat, and I've worked with in the room today, and I've worked with some of you, and we're really exciting to be sort of building on that work and those relationships that we've had with groups and organisations locally. And we're really excited actually to be working more in Slough. We've run a number of community projects. We often at the university talk about participatory research, which again is just a method that sort of puts the kind of power and centres communities. But if you want to look at a little bit more about what we've done, the links in the slides will take you to some of our projects. And just very briefly, for nearly 10 years now, actually, we've been working with the Whitley Community Development Association. And we've kind of trained local residents and young people. And at the moment, we're actually working on a project looking at food, local communities' access to healthy food and sustainable food. And we work a lot with young people as well on their lives and aspirations. We've worked with some of you in this meeting today on a community participatory action research project, which was actually around health inequalities following COVID. And our partner, one of our partners was with Rachel in Reading Voluntary Action. And then myself, Alice, and a number of students have actually been working with Reading Borough Council on a storytelling project, which is really understanding the stories and the heritage and the ways that local communities are connected to Oxford Road, which is a part of Reading. And this type of work is really helping to inform how local families want to use those spaces. So hopefully that just gives you a little flavour of some of the work that we've been doing at Reading. And I'm now going to pass you on to Alice, who introduced herself earlier. She's part of our team, and she's going to talk a little bit more about some of her work.
Hi, everybody. So what is it like to be a community researcher? So most people, when they see the word research, and they always think that it's probably something.
Oh, Alice, so sorry to interrupt. Your audio's kind of going in and out. I don't know if it's possible to sort of hold your computer a bit nearer or something like that, maybe for the microphone. Sorry. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? It's clear, yeah?
Yes, really clear. Thank you.
Okay. So many people, when they see community research, they always think that it's probably something to do with somebody coming in with academic work and all that. But what we are looking for, most of the community researchers that we have worked for, is about strong community engagement skills. That's the most key of doing community work, being able to reach out to communities, being able to talk and listen. First and foremost, to listen to the people and then communicate and reflect back on everything that the community talks about. It's not always about researching your own community as such. It is also researching people that you don't know and understanding their dynamics. Working with researching communities creates differences different approaches. So you can take part in whatever way. So like we are doing with the British Science Association, the ways that we do is we center the community first. They are the main thing that we center. And we hear their voices, we listen to them, we reflect, we step back, we engage again, we find the strengths in everything that they are doing. But also as a community researcher, you build on your strengths. We actually accept anybody that can come in and say, I've got these strengths, and we build on those strengths all together. And we work with people with different strengths. So the way of doing it is advocating for the community as such in a lot of these projects. And it's a great opportunity to build up your strengths. So like, for example, the things that we've been doing recently, which is the main one, which is the Oxford Road project. Most of the people that we worked with the Baker Street team. There were young people there. We had never done research before. We engaged in what we were doing and understood the way we were working, but it was mainly about listening to the community. So we spent time scoping and understanding the community that we were going into, and their differences in every other aspect. So we brought in things that actually said they wanted to come out of this research. For example, if you notice, if you go to Oxford Road, there's a mural that is there, which was the first part of the pilot project. The mural, the people that we interviewed during the project said they wanted something that is historic, that will stay in their community. And they then later on interviewed the people that actually made the mural. So it's the same with the second pilot that we did. People wanted different ways of producing the people who participate, different ways of producing the things that were important to them as a community in Oxford Road. So we had pictures, we had them recorded, which is now on different channels of Amazon Music. It is on Spotify, but most of it, we didn't come with that. They decided, the community that we're researching, that they wanted a legacy in all these things so that their children or grandchildren or any of their relatives can listen in future. So it is a teamwork of building up on your strength. So these are the things that you do. If you have any questions about this role, it's like to do, then we can get in touch and find out more about it, and can explain about the work. Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. And these are just some of the quotes from researchers from some of the projects that that Alice and Sally were just talking about. So, you know, being involved has been an eye-opener, and gaining knowledge and interacting with people that they wouldn't have been able to imagine, and allowing everyone's voice to be heard. Someone else saying, I feel valued in a world where that doesn't happen very often, and it's about being part of a community and listening to their group. And I think as Alice was just reflecting there, there's a real possibility, we hope, through these projects to be able to affect change. So it's not just doing a piece of research, you know, it is about how do we affect change and make a difference. And then another person saying that it's about building up their knowledge of different projects that are out in the community and learning different ways of life, which we'll talk a bit more about when we get to the bit of talking about these particular roles. So we'd like to give you, so what's this project, the community-led research pilot, all about? So one thing is that it's about testing new ways of doing research where there's an increase in the power of communities to decide what to research. And we hope that these will be themes that are linked to science, that it might build skills, relationships and ideas, again, that might lead to research proposals, but doesn't have to. Some of this process is about exploring what research actually is with communities and what that is within the university as well. And we will share our learning throughout. We want to influence the wider research sector as well, to value active community involvement more. And so the timings of this, it will run from this first phase of the programme, which as community researchers you'd be involved in, will run from September 2022. Sorry, there's an error in the slide there. It should say to June 2023. Sorry about that. The whole programme will run till 2024, but this stage is to June 2023. I'll correct that before we send it out. The location is 2 places, so Reading and Slough communities. And the idea is that initially people will explore research ideas, which could develop into some themes, and then research questions. And then there is funding to deliver 5 research proposals or research projects. And this is funded by our funder, UK Research and Innovation. And they're really keen about that, taking the learning from this and really helping us to share that message with the wider research sector. So yes, community researchers and university researchers, how will that work? Sally, do you want to talk to this?
Yeah, thanks very much, Kate. So the idea is that we're going to have 2 teams. So there's going to be a team of community researchers, and you're all here today to learn more about that. And you'll also be working with a team of university researchers, and they're likely to be from a range of different departments and different interests, like you know, people that are passionate about working with communities. Possibly some postgraduate students, and maybe we call them early career staff because they're staff that are early in their career, research careers, maybe working on a particular project, or they might be young lecturers. And so that team, we're going to be working together, and what we're going to be doing is then taking some outreach and going to work with community groups or communities of interest around particular issues to explore some of these things. So in a sense, this first stage is about working with communities. What are they interested in? Have they got any questions that they want answered to? These things could be anything broadly linked to science, right? Could be something around climate change or local pollution, or why is my local park flooded? Or why is it that we've got problems with some of the vegetation and trees in our area? It's completely open and based on what local communities are interested in. So our job, really, our team as a job, is to actually help them develop, find out what they're interested in, develop some of those themes, and think about how we actually build that into some questions that they want answered. The next step, really, for some groups will be, do they want to do a full research project on this? Do they actually want to take this now and actually run a piece of research, gather the knowledge, the data, the understanding, and do that themselves with our support? Some groups may not want to do that. They may just want to sort of participate early stages of the project, find out more about what we all do, but others may want, with our help, to actually take that a bit further into one of 5 community-led research projects, and there is funding for that process. So essentially, we're helping communities get to that part of the research. So who will you, as community researchers, working with? As I said before, you're going to be working with our team at the university and a small team of university researchers. You'll be working with local community members, groups, inspiring them to take part and to actually understand their local priorities. What are they interested in and why, and how do they want to do this work? Helping them to shape some of those questions and ideas that could be extremely broad. I've just put some examples on there. It might be around how I use my local green space. Can I grow more food? Are there some health issues that we want to look at? What questions around climate change are we really interested in? And then these questions will be developed into new funded projects to start in June. But I think the important thing about this is that possibly not every single conversation will lead to a research project, but we'll be kind of working with groups that really want to take those into some of those projects. And other, as you say, other interested groups just might want to kind of be part of the wider project and take part in some activities. So we'll be kind of working together to kind of reach those stages and to have a new stage starting in June 2023.
Great, thank you, Sally. So just to give you an idea of this, because some people quite like visuals, this gives you an idea of the timeline for the programme. So we've been in our project setup phase until the end of August. We're now recruiting and training up, in the recruitment and training phase for community researchers, which will happen. So training will be on sort of ongoing through the project, but there'll be initial training to help people get started during November. So we hope that that the community researcher roles will be recruited sort of mid-November, early to mid-November, and we'll start some training, which will be run by our training partner. Then from running alongside, so if you can see stage 2, oops, sorry, to go back, sorry about that. If you can see in stage 2 here, I don't know if you can see my cursor going along there, but basically from November to January is where we want to be looking at working with communities, or it might be groups of people, it might not be a formal community group. And this is where we introduce the idea of what research might be and really go out and speak to kind of diverse communities in Reading and Slough. And then in February, March time, we're hoping that out of that, some of the groups will go on to want to create research questions from the themes that they've worked with us to look at, and then we'll be designing the research in April and May. So essentially what you would be doing as community researchers will run from November this year to May next year, and then from June onwards for between 9 to 12 months will be the actual research projects themselves, and that will be 5 proposals. Now, obviously, we recognise that not everybody will necessarily go on to do a research project. So one of the things we'll be thinking about is how we kind of like mark the end point before some projects go forward, you know, and thank the other communities to take part. So that's something we might look at, you know, as the project moves forward. So, and what we're really hoping, there's, you know, as we've been saying all the way through the slides so far, is that there'll be some real benefits to people for taking part in this. So there will be increased understanding and improved relationships and new relationships, that there'll be greater confidence both within community environment, but also within the research and university environment, that there'll be empowerment, there'll be collaboration, and there'll be more influence coming both directions, both the ability of universities and the researchers to connect and influence communities, and vice versa, communities importantly having more influence, and recognising a benefit from research that will be carried out. And then an overarching thing, which our funder is also really keen for us to work on, which is about the community role and importance, that the community role and the importance of that role in research is valued and recognised. So yes, I wonder, do people want to have it? Has anybody, I might just stop sharing for a moment. Has anyone got any project questions before we just move into the next bit, which is more about the roles themselves? And if you haven't, that's totally fine. Or if you've got things and you want to put them into the chat rather than speaking out. But just wanted to double check, have a look and see how everyone's doing instead of death by PowerPoint. Has anyone got any burning questions? You do switch your mic off and ask. No? Okay, we'll press on, but please do add things. Oh, sorry, go on.
Sorry to butt in here. Obviously, living in the community as I do in Whitley, and I've been here for like 25 years now, in Reading for 40 nearly, you pick up stuff that you know already might be something of interest to the community. As you say, you're trying to link the research to the community. Even in general daily conversations with neighbours, you pick up stuff that they don't feel listened to already. There's so much out there already, isn't there? I just wondered if anybody else thought the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I think it's an interesting role. Someone else has also put a query in the chat about who decides what sort of community groups will be consulted. That's a really interesting question, isn't it? So I think collectively we will be deciding. So obviously the BSA and the University of Reading, but also our community partners, RVA and Slough Council for Voluntary Services will also be feeding into this. I think so. Two things. One is that I think groups will be, we want to draw upon local knowledge and insight, but I also think that in terms of how we target, not target's the wrong word, but how we go out and decide who to reach, We've got, if you look in the job description, we speak about, you know, who are the audiences that are underrepresented in research. So we do have a kind of criteria around that. So it's not going out to anybody in the community in Reading. So do have a look at that. But I think it's also, we were discussing this actually as a team earlier in the week. We need to kind of consider capacity a little bit with individuals and organisations. So, you know, if there's an organisation that's working with extremely vulnerable or challenged groups, for example, in their life circumstances or experiences, they may not be best placed to take part in the research project at this point, but that doesn't mean we can't go along and talk about it. So I think there's two elements here. One is, yes, we want this to, so one of the questions we sort of preempted is, you know, who decides what will be researched? And I think it's the early career researcher and the community researcher role to help facilitate and guide and support communities to identify themes and ideas. Now, obviously, if people have never been in contact with any form of research before, they might not know quite what fits with that. So I think it's all of our roles to kind of help shape and guide without necessarily dictating. Does that make sense? And one of the other questions that's come up, because I'm aware with some of the other research projects that have happened, is that often they're with, they've been with maybe a member of a particular community who's then worked with that group to do the research. And that's a slightly different way of working than we're trying out here. It's not to say that we're totally excluding that way, but what we do want to do is broaden out who's invited to take part, to make sure that we include more seldom heard voices, you know, so not necessarily the same groups that might always get the opportunity or recognise the opportunity to take part, more importantly, I think. Has anyone else in the team got anything to add, so I'm not waffling on?
Yeah, actually, Kate, I just wanted to add that Slough CVS and Reading Voluntary Action will also be providing opportunities for you to interact and engage with different community organisations. So you mentioned seldom heard community groups, so that could be army families, traveller communities, different minority community organisations and groups. For example, in our area, we've got Slough Refugee Support. We've got an influx of refugees coming in at the moment, and we are working across different community groups to provide support to those refugee families. So that's just one example, really. But what we will do is introduce you to lots of different community organisations and groups through our networking contacts and also different events that we hold. And that way you'll have a scope, more of a scope and an understanding of which communities might need certain support, or, you know, there may be certain areas of looking into mental health and health inequalities are experienced by certain communities. So that will be something that might come out of some of your conversations with different communities that you speak to, and as a result you can discuss that with the university contacts and then basically take it forward from there.
Does that answer your question, Kimberly, do you think, or your thoughts? Yeah. Oh, don't worry. You can...
I was just going to, can I just say very quickly as well, just in response to Kimberly, I think, isn't it in the first stage, so the experience that Kimberly has just, you know, outlined to us, which is where people are saying things to her and saying that, you know, these things are not heard or recognised. So at that first stage, that's you know, exactly the sorts of experiences that we want to capture. And then I think what Kate's outlining is not all of those things will be able to go forward into a research project. So there's the capture of what's going on, you know, listening, talking to people. Is that an isolated incident, or is there, you know, lots of people that feel that way? Is this shaping up into a piece of research? And then some of those issues will be taken through as a piece of research, but not all of them. But it will still be absolutely captured, those experiences.
Yeah,
that helps.
Great.
We're just grappling with it ourselves.
Okay, I might press on so that we can talk a bit more about the role, and there'll be room for more questions in a bit. But if you've got a burning question that you think you might forget, just put it in the chat and then we'll scroll through and we'll come back to it. Brilliant. Sorry, I'll attempt to share again. Oh dear. Okay. Sorry. There we go. So, so one of the things we wanted to flag up was, what are the benefits of this role? And Apologies, my screen, the connection between the screens is a bit slow. So there's a real opportunity here for you to develop your existing community-based skills and experience in a new way. So we really recognise that we've got a pool of people probably on this call that already have a lot of experience. And we're really keen for you to bring that to this, as Rachel was just describing. You'll be part of a team of community researchers, so you're not going to be alone, but you will be bringing your lived experience, your skills and knowledge to the project. And this is a real opportunity to build new networks with the university and local groups and work in a supportive team alongside our university researchers, with ourselves at the BSA, with our VA and SCBS. And then a unique opportunity to be part of a project where community is at the heart. So this isn't standard practice within a lot of research. So really we want to be able to shout about this and explore the opportunities. So let's look at practicalities. This is a paid freelance role at £22.86 an hour, which works out at approximately £160 a day based on a 7-hour day. As I said, so apologies for my time date error earlier, but it's part-time from November 2022 to May 2023. We've had quite a few questions already about what is the commitment for this. So we do think that it will probably require regular weekdays with some evenings and weekends, and that's simply just because we know that a lot of community groups or communities don't necessarily meet or gather, within working hours. And we're indicating approximately 14 hours a week, but that's probably going to be worked flexibly. So there's going to be need to commit to 7 days training starting in November, probably around the 14th, maybe the 17th, maybe the 7th of November or the 14th, depending on, the group of researchers that are recruited. And then about 35 days then for the stages running after that up until the end of May. So that's that. And then there will be free training. So you'll have regular training, and we have some specialist trainers called the Cobra Collective who are going to support you in the project. So this might be helping people with outreach and engagement and stakeholder mapping, which is a kind of fancy way of saying mapping out different organisations really. Community facilitation and listening skills, data protection and confidentiality, and then accessible research methods. So there's a whole host of different ways of looking at research. It doesn't have to be the obvious, interviews or focus groups and the sort of traditional consultation. It could involve visual and creative methods. And Cobra Collective are quite exciting because they've done quite a lot of that work with communities already. And then let's look at who are we looking for, the criteria. So Rachel and Asma, I can't see you, but do chip in, unmute and chip in at this point if need be. So we're really looking for people with a minimum of 2 years experience in community work, and that's really quite essential, and it can be paid or voluntary. And within that, experience of organising community events and group facilitation, and really an ability to work with a real diverse range of community and groups. Rachel, I don't know if you want to just sort of touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, as Kate said, it can be voluntary or it could be in paid work within a community. It could be that you've actually got some experience of doing community research, which is great. Also fabulous if you've been involved in, if you're just one of those people that's really good at capturing what people are experiencing or issues. That could be in a workplace, to be honest. It could have been something in particular in a workplace, and you're just really good at getting everyone together and talking about those things, and then and then sharing it and capturing it. Or it could be engaging people in an activity, and that could be like a parent group, or it could be around a food project or a gardening project, those kind of networking experiences. So so it doesn't necessarily have to be community development in a traditional sense. Just you're one of those people that's out there getting involved in community work. Yeah.
So another key aspect is about organisational and planning skills and strong communication skills. So as part of that, I'm sure all of you know, but active listening and empathy are so important, and the ability to work with diverse groups. So it might not be groups that you always work with or have worked with before. So it's that sort of flexibility. Experience of living or working in Reading and Slough. So we put living or working because, you know, people don't necessarily have to live in the place to be connected to it, but we do think that that connection is quite important. We've put educated to a degree level is desirable and not essential. So you might have lots of experience that give you the equivalent of that. So don't feel put off if you don't have that, because we're not wanting that to be an excluding thing. And then basic IT, basic computer skills and being confident with a smartphone, and we will provide training if helpful for that. And then Asma and Rachel, would you like to speak a little bit about the wider support for the roles?
Asma,
sure.
you go first.
Okay, yeah, I can go
We're
first.
so slick.
No, that's fine. It's that time of the evening, isn't it, when everyone's sort of
Yeah.
just had supper, wanting to have supper. So yes, so basically Slough Council for Voluntary Service and Reading Voluntary Action, so we have our own office spaces. We'll be able to provide you with support with your application form. If you need to, you're able to come in and access our computers on site. So I believe Rachel's is based in the library in Reading, and Slough we're based on Church Street, which is in the centre. We will also provide you access to laptops, mobile phones, and you will have access to the whole team. So we've both got experts within our team, which works closely with different community organisations and groups. About Reading, but Slough, certainly we provide support to over 500 community groups and charities in our area, and even more so in the surrounding areas as well. So we can link you in with different communities for you to get that diverse experience, and not just the experience of working with your own communities. As has been discussed earlier. What we can also do is provide you opportunities to all of our networking sessions, like I've said earlier, and also connect you with the services that we deliver. So you might be able to meet the community champions, the volunteers. We have over 2,000 in Slough, and lots of networking opportunities there. And also you'll be able to meet some of the organisations and learn about what they do. So it's about increasing your knowledge and awareness of the local area. And certainly we will provide you with one-to-one support as well, and give you guidance on a weekly basis. Rachel, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, that sounds good. The only other thing is, if you're out and about in the town, you might be meeting with a group of people that you've not met before. So for RVA's perspective, we've got the fabulous Azra, who's our community development manager, who'd be able to go along with you if you wanted. So all of that kind of support is there if you need it, but you might not, up to you, but it's there if you want it.
Great, thank you. That's really good. And so just to briefly just guide people on the steps of how to apply. So there's an application form which you can find on the British Science Association website. It's got 6 questions. We've tried to keep this fairly simple. There's a word count on each question, but don't worry, you don't have to go up to it. If you put in less, that's okay too. And basically, it's fairly self-explanatory, but if you do need support, I'll share how you can get some support around completing the form in a moment. One thing that I just really wanted to emphasize was please read the job description, stating the obvious, but sometimes people don't. It's worth reading it, mainly so you can get an idea, is it what you're really interested in? And it will also give you an idea of how to tailor your answers in the form. And then the last thing is at the end, there's a space for you to attach your CV in the same way you'd attach to an email. And further information on how to apply. So as I just said, there's job description, there's a link. If you click on that in the presentation, it will go to it. There's our web pages for just broader information about the project, and most of that, to be honest, has already been included in this session today. Again, the link again for the application form is here, and you need to send that in by Monday, the 17th of October at 9 AM. So hopefully that gives the weekend if people don't have time in the week to complete it. And we've set an interview date at the moment for Wednesday, the 26th of October. And the reason we've put that in is we just want to give people a bit of a heads up. That's when we're aiming to interview. If there's a real challenge with that, we can look at it, but we're aiming to do the majority of people on that day just because we want to gather in the same place and do them face to face. And I said to you, if you need help with your applications, please do get in touch. So Asma's email is there and her phone number if you're based in Slough. Rachel for Reading Voluntary Action as well is there with her phone number. And at the end, I'll include Sally and all of our emails. Actually, I'll put that slide back up at the end. So now I'm going to stop sharing. Oops, sorry, stop sharing. And there's time to take questions if people have any. I realise it's quite late in the evening, and it's if you're anything like me, you reach this point of the day and your brain doesn't go quite as fast. But I wondered if anyone's got any questions for us. Yeah, Hasan, hi. Do you want to unmute?
Hi, I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand on Zoom.
Don't worry, you
I
can.
forgot to do that. I
Raise your
forgot
hand
to do that. You presented quite well. Thank you so much for that. And I had a few questions. So, you didn't really explain like how, like when would we be able to commit to like what hours? Obviously, it's freelance. Obviously, I'll work a 9 to 5 at the moment. So how will that affect me working like on the weekend? I'll have full availability. I'll have full availability in the evenings. Could I still be able to commit for this role?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm going to be annoying because I can't really answer it like succinctly in terms of like, oh, it's definitely going to be these days of the week, because I think what we'll be doing from now until when the community researcher roles start is beginning to map out the kinds of groups that people could approach. So I actually, and some of the availability that's going to be needed with the community researcher roles is going to be a bit dictated by the groups.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't want to put anybody off if you're in a full-time role, but I think it could be a little bit challenging. I mean, there may be, I don't want to put people off, but I do think some weekday availability may be needed, and I don't want to mislead people in thinking that that's not the case.
I'm currently in full-time training, but I will be in a part-time role afterwards.
Oh, okay.
My training started on the 19th of September, so
Sure,
6 weeks from the 19th.
Oh,
it's full-time, 9 to 5, and after that I'm on flexi hours.
Okay.
And then so that's why I think I can commit.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Well, that wouldn't be a huge barrier, because I think, as I said to you, we're looking at probably mid-November. So I think you should be all right by then. But it will need some weekday availability. I mean, we're not saying Monday to Friday. And although we put 14 hours in the job description, it's as an indicative thing, because I think there's going to be a lot more emphasis at the beginning, because as you all know from doing community engagement, you need to go out, kind of meet groups where they're at. It's not about us saying you've got to be available on this time or day. You kind of have to go where they are to some extent, and then maybe set up some additional sessions and things like that. So there's that big push to get people engaged, and I would imagine it's going to be pretty busy leading up to Christmas. It might quieten down the last couple of weeks, December, early January, and then pick up again sort of mid to late Jan. Do you know what I mean? So I think the pace is going to vary as we move through. I hope that helps explain.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that explains. Thank you. Also, would the training be during the daytime hours, or would it be, for example, like how we had the meeting today at this sort of time? Sorry, what was the question? But how would the training? Like, how was it? Would the training be face to face, or would it be virtually?
There's going to be probably a mixture, and I think we may, once we've recruited, actually have a chat with the community researchers and the early career researchers to see what will work with the whole group. So there'll probably be a mixture of. I think it's really important that you guys, when the researcher roles are in place, that people build a relationship. So we would like some to be face to face, and then a little bit online, just because we recognise people can't be there all the time.
Fine.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't catch what you said about somebody called Azra. What was mentioned about somebody called Azra? Something was mentioned about somebody called Azra.
No, that was me, Azra. She's the inclusion manager for Reading Voluntary Action, and so she would be the sort of main contact and support. But she's out tonight doing community stuff.
Okay, and lastly, if we did have to be flexible with the interview, if we couldn't make it, for example, at a particular time of that day, but we could after, would that be a problem?
Sorry, I don't answer. Do you mean could you do it on a different day or a different?
No, if
or
you
later
could
in
make
the
it on,
day?
if you could make it on that day, but maybe because I don't know how if I was successful if I could attend at that time.
Maybe at the end of the day, you mean? Yeah, I'm sure we will try and be as flexible as we can.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can look at that. Thank you. Thanks for all your questions.
Sorry
Really
for all the
good.
questions, but I was writing them down as I was going.
No, you're very
Thank
good.
you. Thank
I'm
you.
sure you've asked some things that other people probably wanted to know.
Thank you.
Right, there's quite a bit in the chat which I don't know if I've seen. So someone said, yes, go ahead, Pat.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't have a button to ask questions, so sorry.
That's all right.
I think I'm getting the gist of the role and everything. But what I wanted to know was when it gets to the point where you're beginning to either write things up or do questions or whatever it may be in terms of documentation, is that a joint responsibility, or is it the community researcher, or how does it work to try and pull all this together?
I think that will be decided as a group with us, and that will be part of the training. So it might depend on the skill sets of and you know the strengths actually of the group. So I would have thought the university researchers will be really, you know, good at writing stuff up, but they also may be coming from a particular angle and they might not bring the same sort of insight as the community researchers might. So I think there'll be a bit of a discussion about that in terms of responsibilities. But what we will do is do some work around roles and responsibilities with everybody as a group, so that there's a kind of confidence in that being jointly agreed and understood. But I think, as you know, with all relationships, that's going to develop, isn't it? As we go.
Absolutely. And I take on board all you say about, you know, mixing people and mixing skills, as it were. My other two are just quick practical things. You said, I think that there's 5 roles here. So how is that balanced out between 3 and 2, or is it? We haven't prescribed that yet. So when we go through the applications, it's going to be who best fits the role, and then we'll review. So we haven't actually decided on an equal split. It may, well, it's not going to be equal because it's 5, but yeah. That just seemed a bit strange.
Hi, Kate.
Yes. Hi, Satwinder. Yeah, I just to finish with what Pat was saying, this program was sort of the structure of the pilot was sort of designed before we found the location. So originally it was designed to be in one, but we recognized that we actually wanted to be able to do some work in Reading and Slough. But it might be that although we might have 3, let's say, I don't know, right, I'm not prescribing this, but if we had 3 researchers who are based in Reading, that doesn't mean that one of those or 2 of those may want to do work with other groups in Slough as well. So it isn't necessarily prescribed by that. Sorry, thanks, Pat.
Okay,
Satwinder,
thank
go
you.
for it. Sorry, Satwinder, go for it.
I'm just wondering, 2 teams that you've been looking for, are they have they already been decided on that, or?
Yeah, so no, so we're recruiting the community researcher role, which will be 5 people now, and that's why we're holding this session. And then we're also recruiting university researcher roles at the same time. So we'll be speaking to people tomorrow about that and next week, and they'll be applying at the same time. So
you have the number of slots that you can tell us about, or?
Do you mean
to fill the roles, I guess?
Yeah, exactly. So we've got 5 places as community researchers and 5 places for the university researcher role. Yeah. I
mean, my experience is with the interaction with people, public in Slough, really. So. Do we go to Reading as well?
If someone is more predominantly physically based in Slough, we wouldn't demand you to have to go to Reading. So you could mainly work within the location of Slough. But we have had some inquiries from some people who are interested in the role that are based in Reading that would be happy to go between the 2 places. So I think you know, we'll look at that once we've got to sort of the interview stage, and that can be something we explore a bit further. But as a rule, if people aren't able to travel. There was also a question in the chat, actually. Someone asked, is there travel expenses? So yes, there will be travel expenses covered within our budget for, you know, when you're working on the project, to travel to locations. And also we'll have some budget to help with some of the community engagement and outreach work, which will be held and you'll be supported by Rachel and Asma's organisations, just to manage those budgets and decide, you know, what needs to be spent and that type of thing. So.
Okay.
Kate, there's some questions around the training. Do you want me to kind of?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah,
do.
Kimberly, and you know, has put some questions about, you know, where would the Reading training be held? I think we're really flexible. So, you know, according to the needs of the community researchers, we want to be really relevant. So again, it might be some training might be out in the communities where you're based, if that's accessible to you. You might want to come and visit us at the university, right? And we'll take you for lunch and show you around the campus. I'm sure some of you know that if you don't. So I think the idea is we're going to tailor this to the group, because we want to make it sort of flexible and inclusive. There might be some training down at Reading Voluntary Action, or maybe in somewhere else if it's a place that's actually everyone can get to. So again, it's not set, it's not prescribed. We'll see what the groups are like and what their needs are. And also in terms of research being face-to-face or online, I think again it's a combination of what suits those communities. Some people are really happy working on Zoom now, others will need, you know, you'll want to go and work with people face-to-face and then do some stuff, follow up on the phone. We know also, I think it's worth saying that you know, COVID hasn't gone away as well. So we don't know quite what this winter's like, so we need to be flexible around that as well, because obviously everyone's safety is really important to us. So yeah, is that okay? Does that answer your questions on that?
Great.
I think there was another question as well around relevant to a Scouts unit. At the moment, we're in this sort of consultation phase, really. If we want to work with with children or the Scouts or anything like that, you know, further down, that would be great. Obviously, there's issues around safeguarding and things like that, and doing research with children that we'd need to think about. But at the moment, we're open to sort of working with different groups and organisations and families as well. So I think it's you know, for the data collection phase, if we were actually going to be working with children, we'd require some specific safeguarding and sort of ethical clearance in order to do that. But at the moment, we're in the, you know, connecting phase really, and a sort of understanding people's issues as well. Kate, I don't know if you want to come in a little bit more, or anyone else on that.
No, I think I would say yeah, I think it's more about going back to this part that's mentioned in the job description, actually, about groups that are underrepresented in research. And obviously you could say a lot of the population is, but we have kind of particular criteria to sort of work with more underserved groups in relation to sort of science and research at the BSA. So probably when we're thinking about groups, it might not be necessarily you know, like, I don't know, like you were just saying, uniform groups like Scouts and things like that, which are probably a bit more mainstream. I totally recognise that that's the way into the wider community. So, but I suppose in short, I think it might be about us doing a bit of mapping, working with Asma and Rachel's organisation's expertise as well, to think about different groups before we sort of make the decision on that. But I totally think that it would be fine to have young people or a youth voice element to the project, and you know, that could be really exciting. And I know Asma, I know your organisation's done quite a lot of work with youth voice, haven't you? So yeah, definitely that could be really interesting. I think what we've got to do in terms of how we target though is recognise that if we're honing down eventually to 5 projects, we don't want to open it out so broad that we raise you've got to balance about raising expectations. So I think there's a mixture. There's different ways you could do this. So other engagement programs that I've worked on, we could take the tack that we want to go out and let people know about possibilities within research, and some of that could be about visiting a whole range of groups. But I think when we get down to like who might do research projects and come up with themes, we probably need to be a little bit targeted. just recognizing how long these things take as well, isn't it? So hope that answers the question. There's a few questions that were actually answered in the chat. Did anyone who asked those questions feel, let's see, I'll try and
Pat's asked another question that hasn't been answered. I think we're looking to you, Kate, for that one.
Oh, are you? So how were the 14 hours and 5 people decided in terms of workload, and is 14 hours the maximum? It's not actually the maximum, because as I said, it could be flexibly worked. So there might be periods where there's need to be more than that each week, or not each week, a week. And then other times when it's a bit quieter, like I was saying. So I think, and how 5 people was decided, we had about a year of development of this project. We worked with another organisation called the Social, Jill, I'm not going to remember it. They're called TSIP is there for short. I can't, and we worked with community participants and community researchers they work with to devise this. So, I mean, so I realise it might seem a bit random. I'm kind of conscious there might be opportunity for people to work in a voluntary capacity as well, to volunteer to support, but we're a bit reluctant to say that, because I think often what happens with community projects is people don't necessarily get paid for their work, and that's why we've got paid researcher roles as opposed to it relying on volunteers. So I realise that's
part of the reason I was asking, Kate, was that I've done some work with groups, and you have to recognise how long it takes you to even start the communication, then build up the relationship before you may even get to the point where you might get in to have a discussion with the group. There's a lot of preparation work to be done as well, not just the, I ring them up tomorrow and I go next week.
Completely, I totally agree with you, and we do recognise that. And if that becomes a major issue, then we might need to look at it. So, but at present, I would say at minimum it will be 2 days a week starting off. But it might be more. And then, as I said, like coming up to Christmas, people don't tend to do as much, do they? And it's harder to work with people. So it might go, not as many days then.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah. And qualifications, something that asked about. Yeah. So we haven't got a formal qualification attached to the training, but it is something we can talk about with our training partner as to whether some of it could be like, this isn't my area, right? But Sally, you might know better, but we might be able to get some points attached to some of that training. But certainly, in addition to our training partner, the Code Collective, ASMA's organisation, that we're thinking about maybe offering, if it's relevant to some of the community researchers and some of the early career researchers, to do the volunteer passport training. And that it's not accredited, but it would be recognised and certificated, wouldn't it, ASMA? So you could use that in future roles. And that would be things about like data protection, confidentiality, working with diverse groups, principles of community engagement, those sorts of, ground, can't think of the right word, sorry, late in the evening, as a baseline, if you like.
Okay, I see, I understand.
Sorry to interrupt you, Kate.
No,
as you mentioned about the what was it called, the SLAV voluntary passport.
Yes.
I started a couple of months ago, and they offered a Saturday service. So this question is for Asma. So there was a Saturday session, so like for about 4 Saturdays in a row, I think, or maybe I think I started it near the end of so I started 1. So would they be offering Saturdays again? Because like there's times when I can't now obviously attend during the week, so that's what I asked if they will be doing Saturdays for the voluntary passport sessions again, please.
Yes, we are looking at not necessarily Saturday, but we are looking at evenings. So again, regarding specifically for this for the community researchers, if evenings would be preferred, we can look at rolling out the sessions in the evenings, particularly, as Kate's already mentioned what it consists of. And just to add, Kate, that it will be looking at safeguarding as well. So that is a main area to ensure that you have the guidance on working with vulnerable people in the community as well. And with children. So that is something that we will ensure that we cover as part of that training and course. And also we have we also provide training in lots of other areas, so delivered by our community organizations and groups on things like autism, dyslexia, lots of other awareness issues as well, looking at people who are visually impaired, and lots of other, just trying to ensure that you get that training in place. So we'll be offering a range of different training sessions throughout the program that you will be able to access as well, dependent on the type of communities you're looking at or the type of research you might be looking at as well. Thank you.
And I think that maybe it's good to mention about an enhanced DBS. That's something that would be used for this.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I know it's very common, but sometimes it just gets people forget about that.
Oh no, absolutely. So that's in our plan to make sure that everyone has enhanced DBS checks, and that's something we can support you with if you haven't already got that or you haven't got a transferable one. So we'll be looking at that. Yeah, it's a really good point. Thank you. Just scrolling through to see.
That doesn't mean to say that you can't have any historic offences. It's just whether they're relevant to the safeguarding, just in case.
Thanks for clarifying that, Rachel. I think we may have covered most of the questions because they were sort of answered, but if anybody felt there was a follow-up on anything they said, do you want to shout out just now?
Can I say something, please?
Yeah.
I'll wait for the question. So, yeah, hello, my name is Abdul. The reason why I joined this session because I find this the opportunity that you displayed is very interesting. It's very valuable, and I like to take part in this community because in terms of my background and skills, I would say I met most of them. I did volunteering for COVID Vaccination Centre. I did community works. I have education backgrounds. I also did skills, and I've got recently I got a job working at home as a COVID vaccine booking service. I currently work for full time, but I'm also looking to split. I'm looking to do more opportunities with this role. So where I'm happy to work alongside the current role. I'm happy to work because I live in Slough already. So, and I know I'll recognize Slough CVS and stuff, but I also want to like get more information. And if I were to apply and get interested to see if I'm suitable for this role. So I just want like, I really wanted to be a part of this, and you know, that's what I could say. So.
Oh, thanks, Abdul. Thanks you for saying that. And thanks for your questions. It's really helpful. If anybody, just to reiterate again, I know I've said it as if till I'm blue in the face, but if you do want a bit of support with your application, don't hesitate to get in touch, because we genuinely do want to sort of talk things through, and we do want this to be a positive process for people regardless. Yes.
Hello, Kate. Sorry. Is it going to be another session tomorrow? Is that right?
There is, but it will be the same thing.
Same thing, yeah. Okay.
Unless you feel you didn't get enough of it tonight, you can very well.
No, I just wanted to know, like, is it going to be different? Is it going to be like
no, it won't be
other people?
Different, sorry.
Is it going to be you there again?
Yeah, I'll be on it. Yes, I won't be singing or anything.
Oh, we didn't.
So I've got one last question.
Yeah, please do.
I need to figure out how to put my hand up on this again. If you're going to be volunteering in, doing research in Slough, will your training be in Slough, or will you have to commute to Reading?
We'll probably need to do a bit flexibly. So I think there will be a value in bringing the community researchers and the early career researchers together at certain points. So, but we'll try and sort of be fair so that, you know, people in one location not always feeling like they have to travel to another.
No, that's fine.
So yeah, I think it will be a mixture.
And if we do need to go to maybe Slough CVS for any help, if you live in Slough, is that okay then? If you need any help with the application or?
Yeah, what I would say is, so email, I'm sure, Asma, or email or ring so that you can arrange it.
That's fine, obviously, yeah.
You can plan ahead, so they can plan ahead and support you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anything else? Because I'm aware it's late and I want to make sure. Oh yes, sorry. Is it Pakri? Go for it.
Hi there. I put it in the chat, but just in case you didn't see it, are you looking for people who have a particular degree, you know, that's kind of maths based or statistics based, or does it not matter?
No, it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter at all. I think The reason we put degree, I suppose, or the equivalent experience, is because that you know, it's, as it says, it's bringing a level of experience, a range of experience to the role. So yeah, no, absolutely not. And research isn't always just about data crunching anyway, and analysis in that sense. So it can be quite broadly based, and that's why we've got training attached to this, so that we can allow people to explore. And not, by the way, just from the community researcher perspective or communities, it's also for the university researchers to widen their experience of what research looks like and what their own research skills are. So
yeah, can I just come on top of that, Kate? I think it's really important. It's all about our learning as well. You know, they want to learn from people with the, you know, your knowledge, lived experience, and it's about, you know, they need the support, and that's why I think Rachel put something in the chat about kind of peer support as well. So, and the same for them, we're opening up to students, to postgrads from any degree as well. You know, yesterday I was talking to some artists that were really interested in this type of work. So at this stage, it's really open. It's more about the passion and the kind of the experience of working with communities that really matters.
yes, thanks, Sally. Jill, did you want to mention, sorry, putting you on the spot, but did you want to mention anything about, you can say no if you want, but about the science related theme aspect? I mean, we did cover it. We said that, you know, there might be things that come up as community-based themes. I don't know, for example, if you're looking at green spaces, that might not immediately, or certainly some sort of health related or well-being related themes actually often do have a connection in science. Yeah,
I mean, our definition of science is very, very broad. So all the examples I think that Sally gave, and Kate that you've mentioned as well, all have some sort of relationship to science. So yeah, don't let that be a barrier at all.
And the other thing to say is, it might be that communities come up with something that's quite niche, quite specialist. Like, for example, we've worked with a community in Belfast that work with adults with learning difficulties and hearing loss, and they did a really interesting project with I didn't even know about this research area. So someone who's a specialist in, I can't even remember the term, it's sort of auditory, particular type of hearing relating to music. Really, really interesting. But so it might be, when we get, in a way, your role is to sort of open up Pandora's box, you know, all these exciting opportunities, and then we'll work with you at the end, towards the end of this stage in, as I said, sort of February, March, April time, to identify whether we need to bring some other researchers in with that sort of specialist knowledge. So we don't expect, not just you, but we don't even expect the early career university researchers necessarily to have knowledge in certain areas, but what we're trying to do is open up the opportunities and the ideas to start with. I should stop speaking. Is there anything else, or shall we all finish for the evening, and just finish by thanking everybody. Thank you everyone for helping prepare for this, but also mostly thank you for attending and really showing your enthusiasm. It's great.
Thank you, Kate. That's great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, one last question.
Oh yes, Abdul, yes.
Would there be another research project next year if you didn't select it this year? I know it's just a question.
Yeah, well, you know what, I don't know yet. It might be that we do a follow one. I can't promise that yet because we rely on funding. So we've got funding for this year.
Yeah.
But even if it's not, I mean, look, I can't make promises I can't keep, right? So at the moment, there is nothing fixed in stone or planned, but that doesn't mean that, you know, the idea with this is that we're embedding something locally that can blossom and bloom and develop into other things. So for example, there might be some opportunities that come out through Sally's department at the university. Likewise, depending on the projects that are researched, we want to introduce other stakeholder groups. It might be the council, might be other organisations locally, you know, to help support some of the impact, because ultimately the word impact just means change. It's the change that we want to see, right? So if there's impact coming out of the research, it might be that we bring in other stakeholders who may well want to follow up on certain things. So we have an eye to that, but at the moment we've got our head on